What is up, everybody? Welcome back to our video. Hope y'all are having an amazing day as usual. If you're new, please make sure to like, subscribe, and always comment down below. It really helps out the video. Today, we're going to take a look at the top 10 worst state capitals. So, unfortunately, a lot of the capitals in the United States kind of suck, honestly. And if it's a capital city, it really should be the best city in your state, and it should represent your state as a whole. Now, we're not going to be including Washington, D.C. for this list. Washington, D.C. ranks high for things like median household income and job opportunities and good schools, but sadly it also ranks poorly for cost of living and crime as well, and a ton of political corruption. Now, I don't think I'm going to look at political corruption as a main source, although there are some states that have way higher political corruption rates than others, so we're also going to consider that as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the top 10 worst capitals of the United States. Number 10, Richmond, Virginia. So Richmond, Virginia ranks low as a state capital for several reasons, including the above-average crime rate, a median household income of $54,000, while the national average is around $70,000, and below-average public schools. However, the commute is pretty decent in Richmond, and the cost of living is about average. There are still some setbacks to living in Richmond, Virginia, including the fact that some parts of the city are not very walkable. However, on a positive note, the city is very historical and is definitely not the most boring state capital. Number 9, Springfield, Illinois. While you may think that most of the crime in Illinois comes from Chicago, Springfield has problems of its own hands. It has a higher crime rate than Richmond. However, the median household income here is slightly higher at $57,000 per year. The public schools here are decent, and the cost of living is pretty low. And on a positive note, this is where Abraham Lincoln lived for a very long time until he became president. Overall, there's nothing really interesting about the city, and most people think that Illinois revolves around Chicago. Number 8, Indianapolis, Indiana. Indianapolis is one of the largest state capitals in the country and has a low median household income of around $54,000, which isn't terrible, and they have average schools, but they really kick it up a notch when it comes to the crime rate. For example, the Martindale-Brightwood neighborhood is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. Now, Indianapolis does have a very low cost of living, and most people say that the commute is pretty good, although for a city of its size, it is very boring and not very walkable. Indianapolis is home to the Indy 500, but again, for a city of its size, there really isn't much to do. You're better off living in a town like Carmel, which is apparently one of the nicest suburbs in the country. Indianapolis itself really isn't that good. Number 7, Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock has pretty high incomes relative to the cost of living. The schools are about average, and most people say the commute is pretty good. However, similar to Indianapolis, the crime rate here is through the roof. Unfortunately, Little Rock ranks well above the national average for both violent and property crimes. In fact, Little Rock ranks consistently in the top 10 or top 15 for most dangerous cities in the country. Little Rock is not a terrible place to live, although you really have to watch your back in most areas. This part of the state is definitely not as thriving as the Fayetteville, Rogers area in northwestern Arkansas, which is a booming metro area, while the rest of the state is pretty well behind the times. Number 6, Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery has a low median household income of $49,000 per year and a crime rate that is slightly above the national average, while public schools here are considered horrible. The commute is about average and the cost of living is low. However, there are plenty of setbacks that come with living in Montgomery, in particular the racial tensions. Most people have heard of the Alabama or Montgomery Brawl, which happened a couple months back this summer when a bunch of white people ganged up on a black security guard because one of their friends was drunk and was just talking shit to the security guard. I believe it went something like that. However, this was a couple months back, so I would have to do more research. But overall, Montgomery is definitely one of our worst state capitals. Number 5, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Baton Rouge is located not too far away from New Orleans and is one of the worst capitals you can live in. The crime rate here is really the problem. The crime rate in both violent and property crimes is very high, and the median household income is low, $46,000 per year. The public schools are about average, so that's a plus, and there is a good commute and a low cost of living, so that's important. Unfortunately, Louisiana is one of the most politically corrupt states in the country, and money is given to mega corporations and oil companies, while this state has one of the highest poverty rates in the country. However, in most parts of the South, people are content with what they have, and most people are grateful and keep a smile on their face. I wish we could say that about the Northeast. Number 4, Harrisburg, PA. Harrisburg has many issues, especially with a low median household income of $44,000 per year compared to the national average of $70,000. The schools here are considered horrible and underfunded. The commutes are about average, and there is really no draw to living in Harrisburg. The crime is high, and there's really not much going on here, especially for a state capital. And the only reason why you would go here is if you have a court date or something related to government. Don't go to Harrisburg. It's gritty. It's depressing. It's not really somewhere you want to be. Number 3, Hartford, Connecticut. Of all the state capitals, Hartford is the poorest with a median household income of $37,000 per year. The public schools are also ranked well below the national average. The cost of living here isn't too bad, but given the fact that Connecticut has some of the highest taxes in the country, your money is not getting you very far in Hartford. And this just goes to show the wealth gap in Connecticut. You have places like Hartford, which suffer from major poverty issues, and then you have Greenwich, where most of the people that live there are one percenters. Hartford is the insurance capital of the country, but some of the companies are leaving, so we'll see what the future holds for Hartford. Number 2, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson is easily the most neglected city in the country. In fact, they don't even report on the crime statistics here, although it is considered to be well above the national average. The city can't agree with a contract of their garbage company, so garbage is just piling up in the city, in addition to a water crisis that they are currently dealing with. Jackson has a low median household income of $38,000 on average, and there are abandoned houses everywhere. The whole city is made up of trees, so you'll find houses that are like an acre deep into the woods that's just boarded up, filled with trash, and maybe a couple cars are in the back, and who knows who's squatting. I mean, with all these garbage issues, there's going to be a rodent problem. And not to mention, the roads in this city are probably the worst in the country. I'm surprised that Jackson's not number 1 statistically. The crime rate in Trenton is atrocious, and the median household income is a low $39,000 per year. The public school system is horrible, and the average price for a home here is under $100,000. Given that New Jersey is one of the most expensive states, the fact that this place is so cheap really tells you something. Even just 2 blocks away from the state capitol building are some of the worst neighborhoods you'll see in New Jersey, and it's really embarrassing. No one really goes down to Trenton unless they have to, and if you're coming in from Pennsylvania, I'm sorry that you have to see Trenton. It is definitely not a shining star in New Jersey. As someone who lives in the state, it's pretty pathetic that Trenton is one of the first cities you have to see, although it is one of the only state capitals on a border with another state, so that's an interesting fact. There's really no draw to Trenton. There's not really any cool places to eat or anything worth visiting. Sadly, this is the worst capital in the United States. So that's going to finish my video on the worst state capitals in the country. I am a little bit sick, so my throat is not really the best, but I hope you guys enjoyed anyways. Make sure to like, subscribe, and God bless all you guys.